Hi everyone, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning once again. Welcome back to my channel, Motivationalee. I hope you're all good and well settled. It's Sunday now and chill with us today because we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic about dealing with toxic people. And for those who haven't subscribed to my channel, please click first that bell button so you get notified, like, share, and subscribe as well. Only here on Motivationally, this channel has been created to inspire, motivate, and create an impact, whatever circumstance you are having right now. So please tune in with us all throughout our discussion right now, dealing with toxic people. And of course, with someone, or there are two lovely people who are very much well versed when it comes to this, topic, mental health and well-being. And at this time, I would like you to meet one of the people that I have met in my journey, not just in YouTube, but in my career as well. And I'm very proud that both of them has said yes for our episode 2, which is dealing with toxic people today. Now, this lovely lady is a counselor, a career practitioner, student well-being professional, and she's also working in a tertiary education. And she's very passionate when it comes to mental health, with a special interest in positive psychology and mind body connection. So without further ado, let's hear it from, let's say hello to Joanna Dutton. Hi, Joanna. How are
Hello,
you?
thank
I have
you.
my clappy. Nice to see you. Next time I'll have that. Okay, have all those gadgets anyways. Thanks so much for
Thank
my
you,
sponsors
Lee.
there. Thank
It's
you so much
wonderful to
for
be
that.
here. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks, Joanna. Joanna, whilst waiting for Orit, guys, maybe she'll be on her way soon, but that's okay, Orit. Take your time. Joanna, apart from what I've mentioned a while ago, is there anything else you want to add to that background that, apart from saying that you are very passionate with mental health and well-being and that mind, body, and positive psychology and mind body connection?
Mm.
Is there anything else you want to say? Let's chill first whilst waiting for Orit.
I think that was a very generous introduction, Lee. I don't know if there's
Thank
much
you.
more that I can add other than to say that I guess one of the things I love about the world of psychology, counselling, and well-being is that we're all always learning, aren't we? And I'm sure that you feel the same way. I feel that every day is an opportunity to learn and grow. And having access to channels like yours and a lot of the content that's out there in the social media world has really broadened the scope of well-being information. So I'm really grateful for that.
Sure, and it's an honor for me to have you and Orit in a while if Orit is here soon, so that a lot of people, not just at work, not just at home, maybe anywhere you go, anywhere in the world, there are a lot of toxic people, even narcissist
Mm.
people. So we want to tackle this. Hi, Art. Art is here now. We want to tackle this and make sure that we can bring the right information. And for those who are tuning in right now, please don't hesitate to type in your comments, your suggestions, your questions on the comment link below.
Mm.
Please do not hesitate to interact with us. I would be very grateful, and we are very grateful to hear from you. And maybe you have some experiences as well they want to share with us, guys. So please don't hesitate to type in your comment on the comment section below. And for Joanna or Joe, can I call you Joe for short, right?
Please do, yes.
It's
Yeah.
like, as if we don't know each other, right? Now, Joanna, I would like also to introduce one of our special guests right now. She was here last time, Joe, during our episode 1 for the mental health and well-being. And I'm so happy and very grateful that she's got this precious time with us today as well, talking about or dealing with toxic people. And this lovely lady is actually also very passionate about mental health and well-being, and have studied a bachelor of psychology and masters of clinical counseling. And she's very well versed, just like you, Joe. That's why both of you are here, like just like a bomb, giving us the right information and is all these golden nuggets. And without further ado, I'm very happy to see you again for episode 2. Let's welcome Orit Pint. Hey.
Thank you very much. That's a lovely welcome. And hello, Joe. Thank you for having me today.
Nice to see you. Nice to see both of you. Now, everyone in the world. We've got lots of global friends who are tuning in right now, and they want to be inspired, motivated, and they want to be empowered today at the end of this session about the people they have met. Already, whilst waiting for you a while ago, I was just saying to Joanna that we have found and met a lot of toxic people in our lives, not just in a relationship, but also even at work or anywhere we go. It doesn't mean that you're in Australia, it's just in Australia. Anywhere you go, there are toxic people around. Okay, so first up, perhaps let's just maybe talk about this toxic people. What is a whoever wants to answer this, either Joe or Orit? Okay, what is a toxic person, and how do we recognize them that they're toxic individual?
That's a great question. I think right from the beginning, what we should perhaps look at is that question of, are there people who are just inherently toxic? Toxic, and it's in their bones type of thing, or are there just toxic behaviours? Because a lot of people sort of adhere to the notion that people are fundamentally good and that there's goodness inside everyone, and people are generally good, but some people manifest what we call toxic behaviours. And for those of us who take that position, I think it's also really important to acknowledge that whilst some people may have good, we may believe that they are a good person, the toxic behaviours are still not acceptable and not something that we should have to put up with if they are having a detrimental effect on our well-being, particularly in a workplace. So whether, there's toxic people or just toxic habits and behaviours, it doesn't mean that the toxic behaviours are any easier to deal with. So, So going back to your question, what is a toxic person and how do we recognise them? Well, there's a lot of things. And I think one of the main things is that a toxic person generally doesn't have insight into the impact of their own behaviour. And quite often they don't show self-awareness, and they don't show a genuine interest in bettering themselves or acknowledging their maladaptive behaviours and showing a genuine desire to change.
Definitely.
So, that's one of the main things that main ways in which you would identify a toxic person. Yeah,
I see. At least, guys, you have an idea, so that if you see these people, try and do something not to even work with them. Change your shifts, perhaps swap your shifts with someone. And the hardest thing, if this is in a relationship, if this is a like a partner kind of thing, it's really hard to swap with someone, but we'll talk more about that later on. So because a lot of people these days are saying like, I've got good workmates, but coming home, it's really toxic. Or I've got a good partner, but going to work, it's not right. It's so toxic, so you can't win. Anything else? Thank you so much for that, Joe. All right. Anything else you want to add to that?
Thank you. No, yes, no, that was well said, Joe. And if I could add to that, I would say that they don't seem to have your best interests at heart. They leave you with depleted energy. You just go away from that interaction feeling as though, why am I feeling this way? And it's just, it really impacts your mental well-being, your emotional well-being. So unlike those sorts of interactions that really spark joy and energize us, they just seem to drain us of any sort of resources that we have. And they're the ones that I would say, take a look at that and, sort of, they really don't sort of have our best interests at heart is what I'd say at the end of the day.
Just to add to that, I'd say the two of the words that spring to mind are disingenuous would be one, and there was another one that's just completely escaped me. But if we look at disingenuous, like you were saying, they don't have your best interest at heart, and they don't tend to be genuine. So with a toxic person, the difficult thing about them is that they're not always that easy to spot at first. Quite often, when we first meet them, they can appear to be really charming. They can have lots of really kind of almost magnetic personality that draws us to them. And so we don't often, get to see their toxic behavior straight away. And so it's almost then hard to believe, and we question ourselves as to whether this is in fact a toxic person, because they seem so nice. And quite often there'll be someone who is quite consumed with appearances and image. And so they might do things like performatively do a lot of favors for other people, or be seen to be giving of themselves, or giving of gifts, or giving of their time, but it's not coming from a genuine place. With a toxic person, it's more likely to be something that's making themselves look good in the eyes of others to maintain that image.
Looks deceiving, right? Deceiving.
Yeah.
Wow, it's like a serpent right now. It looks deceiving, and it's really hard, when you are. Imagine if you're working with people who are kind of, toxic. It's, as what Art is saying, is draining. And if you're really doing your best shot at work, and then you are working with this, person all the time, it seems like instead of being inspired, you get expired. You get like, you feel like, I don't want to go to work anymore. It feels like I don't like. It's like you love your job, but you're kind of hating your job because it's actually like, it's everything has been defined because of that. You're working with someone who's dragging you down, and it's really, emotionally exhausting. What if you've got a very low self-confidence? The more this will really break you. So thank you for that sharing about, describing about this, toxic people. Now, I'm sure you have lots of things to say in a while, and you've actually mentioned about how can you describe some examples of a toxic behavior? I'm sure you
Yeah,
have said
sure.
something a while ago, but anyone, Orit or Joanna, whoever wants to speak first, I don't mind, or you can share.
I'm happy to add to what you were saying about the workplace, Lee. It could be someone that sort of exploits their relationship with you. It could perhaps be a manager, and they've asked you to do something for them, and you've done a great job, submitted it all, and it's just that they just take all the credit for it, and they don't mention your input. And slowly across sort of a period of time, you notice that, you're being taken advantage of and things like that. That's just one of the examples, and it can kind of be quite insidious, the way that a toxic person can work. It can start off very subtly, and then slowly it builds up, and things like that. So that can also, there are examples sort of in personal relationships as well.
And that's a good point, Orit. Like, especially if you're doing your best shot when it comes to all these requirements, and you've done it on time, and still you don't get appreciated, and still they look at the negative things about it. Like, instead of you appreciating your hard work, it seems like you've got to do this. Like maybe 9 out of 10, you've done so much, but they focus on the very simple mistakes, and they make it complicated, and these are toxic people to work with, isn't it, right? And same with sorry, Joanna, you were saying something. Sorry to interrupt there.
No, that's fine. I was just picking up what you were saying, is that quite often how you know that you're in the presence of a toxic person is partly about how they make you feel. And like you were saying about the manager that constantly nitpicks on your little mistakes, and maybe they don't do that to everyone, but they're targeting you. If you feel that there's a person in your life where you are constantly sort of having to self-monitor, be really careful about what you say and censor yourself, and you're choosing your words very carefully, and you're having to constantly reevaluate what you're allowed to say and how you should act and what you should, and you feel so you can't be yourself because you're constantly treading on eggshells, that would suggest you're in the presence of a toxic person.
Oh, wow. My God. We are so lucky, right? Now, Joanna or Orit, someone is asking here, now that we're talking about work relationship, not the interpersonal, not the intimate relationship at the moment, okay? It's more in the workplace. Is micromanaging part of the description that you are working with a toxic individual?
I'll start if you like. I think it can be. I'd say not necessarily, because I know that different managers have different styles, but micromanaging and sort of having that management style where they're focusing on the minute details and every every little aspect of a person's role could be an example of controlling behaviour and a power imbalance where they're abusing their power, because obviously a manager has, they're in a position of power, but it's about what they do with that power that determines whether, you'd call them a toxic person or not. Yeah.
True. And bless all these managers. A lot of managers in everywhere in the world are really, great managers. So it doesn't really, we're not looking into the managers right now. I think it's just even like, the same level of workmates, colleagues as well. There are also toxic people. And I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, I think being selfish and also being jealous or envy as well could be part of being toxic to someone, because there is jealousy, there's envy, like, hey, Joanna and Art are really good in this, I should be, and with that, that person could maybe say something like mirroring image, just to bring you down. Does that, am I making sense about this? There is jealousy, there is envy, and being selfish as well.
That's a good point, Lee. I think at the end of the day, if you've got to look at the purpose and the intention behind what the behaviours are. If it's just to better the company and better the sort of well-being and I suppose work environment, that's one thing. But if it's sort of nitpicking, as Joe was mentioning, and things like that, and also if you see there's sort of jealousy, or again, no one's taking accountability when they can, and sort of open, honest communications, it's just, again, behind what the intention is. So it can vary. It's a case-by-case scenario, really.
When we're talking about, when we talk about toxic people, as part of this conversation, one of the main categories of toxic people is what we call narcissism, and that's largely what we'll be talking about today. The thing that's interesting about narcissists is that sort of paradox in that they are very self-absorbed. Everything is always about them, and they have this belief that everything they never. It's all about them and they can do no wrong. So everything that goes wrong, they blame it on someone else. Everything is someone else's fault. They don't take personal responsibility.
It's hard, isn't it?
That they tend to be people who inside can be quite fragile and insecure and don't have a strong sense of self. And that's why they resort to these really toxic behaviours kind of as a coping mechanism for them. And jealousy is often symptomatic of that, because rather than being a champion for someone else's success and being happy about someone else's success, they'll see that as a threat. So they need to take that person down a notch by invalidating or minimising their success rather than just being happy for them.
True. And again, narcissism can happen not just at work, but also in a relationship. So talking about, before we talk about the signs and symptoms of not being a narcissist, how can you actually relate to this into an intimate relationship? Let's now set aside the working relationship. How about the intimate relationship? Do you want to add to, anything that you want to add about being toxic, being a narcissist in a relationship, please? Even manifestations and all that, please.
Sure. So,
Joanna, you want to start? Yeah. Or Orange?
Well, in an intimate relationship, the way it plays out, yes, there would be some similarities, but some differences to the workplace environment. As we were saying before, if someone is in an intimate relationship with a person who they suspect may be a narcissist, it's perfectly reasonable that they may not pick it at first, because in the initial stage, the thing about narcissists is that they are very skilled manipulators. And as part of that, skilled manipulators, I'm not sure if skilled is the right word, but they are master manipulators. And so in those initial stages, they can appear to be intensely charming. They can make you feel like $1 million. And so you get lured into their charm, and that can make us blinded to the narcissistic behaviours, which may not present themselves straight away. And so once they sort of lure you in, and that's when they can start doing things such as identifying where your weak spot is. So that might be a phobia, it could be an insecurity, whether it's like an insecurity about your appearance or about how much money you earn or something like that. And they'll use that as a tool just to have a go at you, bring you down a notch, use it as a tool for power and control. So that's one way in which narcissists work, but there's many others. So one of the key things that is often evident in narcissistic romantic relationships is something called gaslighting. And I think a lot of people are familiar with this one. The term comes from actually from a play which became a film in the 1940s by the name Gaslight. And so what happened in that film was that the man would light the gas on the stove, and then the wife would come in and say, do you smell gas? And he'd say, no, you're imagining it. And it was all a very cunning ploy to make her believe that she was, losing connection with reality. And that was a really powerful tool for manipulation. And that gaslighting plays out in many ways in narcissistic relationships.
Ooh, wow, what a bomb. That's true. And they're like a cancer in a relationship, isn't it? Right? We need to get rid of them. They're not welcome in our hearts, even in our mind, body, and soul, isn't it? Now, Orit, do you want to follow up any sort of like ideas of what are again some other signs and symptoms of being a narcissist, especially in a relationship?
Absolutely. And as Joe was saying, so the gaslighting plays a major role in it. And the reason that they do that also is because they are really quite insecure themselves. So although they put on that front, that facade of being so high and mighty, superior, above everybody else, they use tactics like gaslighting, and there are many other ways to control the relationship and to bring you down. So whatever you're good at or whatever you're confident at, it's just they want to make you sort of almost like a shell of yourself. So they leave you doubting your own reality. And in fact, you do start to doubt your reality. They might just change one word in a sentence to make you think, oh, no, that's not what you said. Oh, but maybe it was. And at the end of the day, that's what happens. And they bring in they recruit what they call flying monkeys, other people to kind of be on their side and to make you also feel as though you almost don't have your own supports. They try to alienate you, isolate you, things like that. Just whatever control yes, it's really sad like that. And no matter how confident you are, you end up not even recognizing yourself.
Oh my God!
In those kinds of relationships.
And have you thank you for the Orit and Joanna. Orit, have you encountered like any of your clients before? I will also ask you this, Joanna, as well. You don't need to tell us what the names and all that. How was the coping? Did it take long for them to recognize that they're in a relationship with a narcissist, or in a relationship?
It's a great question, and we have also most of the clients are what you would call empaths, quite empathic. They put themselves in the shoes of whether it's a narcissist or other people. So these are compassionate, caring individuals, and they don't see this initially, because you're supposed to have this romantic love interest love you back. You don't imagine that they're not going to feel the way that you feel. So what happens is, for a long time, I think they're in denial. And then it just sort of hits them at the end where it's just, I can't believe this has happened. And if they've been documenting it, then they can see there is a pattern. And the way that a narcissist can keep them in the relationship is they sort of do a bit of what's called breadcrumbing. They'll sort of inject a little bit of, love and compassion and what have you. But you've got to remember that the type of compassion and love, it's all an act. It's not genuine. It's for self-interest, for self-gain. And so that's what sort of keeps these people in these relationships. And having said that, it's males and females who have got these narcissistic traits or narcissistic personalities. So it can happen. So for the purpose of these discussions, we're sort of just saying, the male is the narcissist. But again, as I said,
we're not sexist here, okay?
Not at all. And it can be female to female. There's no discrimination really. And at the end of the day, it's because and narcissists, the empathy that they show is more cognitive empathy. They don't have the kind of emotional or compassionate empathy. So they're very, as Joe was saying earlier, they are master manipulators. They can really hone in on those vulnerabilities. And that's why initially in these romantic relationships, they do a lot of love bombing, where they basically will just make you feel like you're the best person in the world, and they'll want to find out everything about you. So you start to believe, wow, this person is taking so much interest in me. Yeah. They're asking questions. They're getting to know me. They're not really talking about themselves initially, because that's their way of finding out that information so they can use it against you later.
Yeah,
it's really a shame.
break you. It won't make you, it will
Absolutely.
break you. So
That's
you
right.
must be vigilant, ladies and gentlemen,
Mm.
about this, signs and symptoms of being a narcissist, whether at work or whether in a relationship. Again, they can be very nice. They can be extrovert, right? Because they're introverts and extroverts. But as what I remembered with Joanna a while ago, even at work they can be very nice to you, very welcoming, hello, hello, and very extrovert. And then after that, getting to know you, just like in a relationship as well, getting to know until they can find a way how to break you. So, and
Mm.
that is again, as a narcissist, Eva is saying this: professional jealousy is real at workplace, and there is jealousy and there is envy. Again, a lot of people these days, they're not contented with what they have. I think they need a therapist, right? Like, instead of
Mm.
being jealous and envious of something, I think you need to book a coach as well. So I'm a coach. If you need a direction and wellness coach, I can help you so that I can increase your self confidence, so that you don't need to drag other people down, or you don't need to break other people's confidence, and emotionally, physically, mentally, in all aspects. We should really spread love in this world, right, Joanna and Orit? So thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Joanna, thank you, Orit, for sharing that. So in other words, when it comes to your clients, when they have this like relationship problem, when it comes to narcissist or
Mm.
toxic individual, how
Mm.
was the coping? Was it easy? Because I know when it comes to relationship, it's hard to let go of someone, because sometimes when it comes to love, we become a bit dumb and with decision making, because love is love, right? It hits you hard, and sometimes you don't think about, hey, I'm in love. It's okay to hurt me, But love must be kind and patient. It should not be jealous. It should not really what you call this, focus on the wrongdoings or anything. Love really perseveres, right? And
Mm.
it endures forever. But again, when it comes to having this, how was the when it comes to relationship, how was the coping? Is it hard for them to overcome this, or
That's
what's
a great
their
question. Yeah, I think that one of the key things to know is that as the helper, whether that's the counselor, the coach, the therapist, patience is really important, and knowing that this person, it might take time for them to be able to identify the narcissistic behaviors in their
Mhm,
partner, and to be able to recognize that those behaviors are toxic and that they're not acceptable and that they are bringing them down. Because
mhm,
quite often, when someone is in a toxic, and I'd use the word abusive because we are talking about emotional abuse here in these relationships. So when a person's been in that for a long time, often they are so worn down and their self-esteem and confidence is at an all-time low that
mhm,
they start to believe that this is all that they deserve. And quite often, as one of their tools for manipulation, that the toxic or narcissistic partner will send a message, whether directly or in a subtle way, that you're not worth anything more than this. No one else would want you, or you won't
mhm.
survive on your own. And that's one of the other things that they'll say is, you need me. You couldn't manage without me.
Yeah.
And
Oh
so to
God.
be able to walk away from a relationship like that takes an enormous amount of courage and also a lot of support. So I think that that's the key thing, is patience, knowing that it will take time. And also when you're working with that client, it's okay to really take the time to acknowledge when you're looking at their relationship that, of course, there will be things they like about their partner.
Mm,
Humans are complex creatures, and people are not just one thing. So it's good to acknowledge that, of course, there's, they have their good qualities. Of course, there's things that you like about them. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten together with them in the first place.
that's right.
So
Love
having
is
that
blind
conversation.
sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. So,
True, true.
um, but to acknowledge for the person, it takes a lot of courage to identify and to address
Mhm.
it, because
Yeah.
they are likely to be in a pretty fragile and vulnerable state.
Thank you so much for that, Joanne. And all right, wonderful, wonderful, very well said. And for you guys out there who are listening right now, if you are undergoing this kind of relationship, please do not hesitate to talk to the right people. You can even reach out to us here if you want it to be more confidential, and we make sure that you are talking to someone. Don't leave it, don't, like, sail on your own. You make sure that you're talking to someone, the right person to talk to, so that you'll be able to overcome this and maybe let go of something, or ditch something in order for you to become great again, because each one of us is capable of being
Yeah.
successful, of being not just at work but also in a relationship. So we sail our own boat, right, as in our lives. So we make sure that don't leave it at the last minute. Talk to the right person. Like Joanna is here, and
Yeah.
Art as well, and myself as a coach. I'm a coach coaching wellness in direction. So make sure, guys, you've got the right people, professional people, to reach out to, so that you'll be able to overcome the trials that you're really encountering right now. And I want to say hello to Rosaline and Eva as well for tuning in, and Annabelle, thank you so much. And Eva saying, thank you, Orid, for that info. And you're right, Joanna. 100% agree to you, Joanna. And yeah, professional jealousy is real at workplace. Now, talking about after the intimate relations that we're talking about right now, what can you advise to those people at work, those who are working, who are experiencing working with different categories of toxic people, whether boss or just the same level of being a colleague as well? What can you advise for them, especially if they love that, whether they love their job or not? Some of them, they want to go out from that, from that job. So what can you advise? Maybe we can start with Orit.
Okay, thank you, Lee. That's a good question. I think it depends on who you're talking about. If it's your colleague, then perhaps you can have a chat, sit down, openly discuss what your thoughts are. It's always best to deal with things at that level initially. I think if it's a manager, again, same thing. If you can have a chat with them. If you don't feel that you're being and discuss it with them, the HR people there, because at the end of the day, if you love your job and you want to make it work, then you're going to be able to hopefully negotiate through that. If that's
Sure.
not the case, then you've got to make those hard decisions as to whether or not you want to move jobs or whether or not you move departments. This is the thing. So, the decision needs to be made. Unlike with personal relationships, that's a little bit harder as well, because the empathy forms the foundation on which, the enabling is built. So if you want to make a relationship work, say with a narcissist or a toxic person, you've really got to sit down and have those discussions and know where to draw the line. Enough empathy, and then establishing healthy boundaries, whether it's in the workplace or in personal relationships, is a sort of thing that you probably need to talk to a professional about, or someone that you can trust.
Sure. Yeah, and they have EAP anyways as well at work, right? That
That's
they can
right.
talk
They
to as well,
do.
which is really good. That's a support
That's right.
system in the
Employee
industry,
assistance
industrial,
program. Correct.
institution.
Correct.
Thank you for that. Joanna, do you want to add? Thanks, Orit. Do you want to add to that briefly?
Yeah, so as Orit was saying, if you work for a big organisation, they're likely to have structures in place where you can go and talk to someone, hopefully confidentially, whether it is through the employee assistance program, or go and talk to an HR partner, see if it's a bullying issue or you're dealing with a toxic person, to see if it can be addressed. If you feel that you're not able to resolve it with them one-on-one, or if that's not appropriate or you don't feel comfortable to do so. But if you are working in an environment where there is really deeply ingrained systemic toxicity and it's just been part of the culture and you don't see any capacity for change anytime soon, and it's wearing you down and it's making you feel depleted and you dread going into work every day, then as Orit was saying, it's worth having a look at that and making the self-honouring choice to think, well, I don't deserve to put up with this. And quite often when people are in that environment and they've been in it for a long time, they start to believe maybe this is all I'm worth, just as in an intimate relationship. And so walking away can be really hard, but you do owe it to yourself to work in an environment where you're treated with respect and where people encourage you to grow and to thrive. So you don't have to stay in a toxic workplace is
True. Well, thanks for that, Joanna. And basically, if they can't really do anything, if no one is listening in that particular institution, then I think the last thing to do is really find another job. If everyone in that institution are the same, and it's really exhausting emotionally, psychologically as well, I think the best thing to do is find another job, same kind of job but a different institution. I think that's the last thing that they could do if no one is listening. So otherwise they come home always crying, and some of them, they can't even sleep. I think that's true. One of the symptoms as well that they are being bullied by a narcissist or a toxic environment is they cannot sleep. Do you agree with me, Joanne and Art? Right? They easily wake up
Absolutely.
late at night, and things like that. It feels like they need to do more because they're again was what you've mentioned, both of you, is the confidence being dragged down, and then there's self-doubt. It
Mhm.
escalates into one thing, and then after that, at the end of the journey, there is already like you are stressed and depressed, and we don't want that to
Mhm.
happen, because if you are already in the dungeon and you are already depressed, how can you thrive even better? And especially if you're not talking to anyone, like to
Mm.
Joe or to Orit or even to myself as well. Like you feel like your life is hopeless. We don't want that to happen to each one of you guys. So please don't forget to stay in touch with the right people. Thanks for you, lovely ladies. I would like to make a follow up question. Okay. With this toxic people, narcissist in general, where might we encounter these people so that we try to be prepared?
Ah, well, I think that most of your listeners out there are probably having a few light bulb moments, and maybe they've all encountered one or two toxic people or more in their lifetimes.
Mhm.
Well, we can encounter toxic people just about anywhere, but I would say that the most common places to encounter them would be within a family or at work. And unfortunately, those two environments tend to be the ones that are the most difficult to separate ourselves from or escape from, for want of a better term. So, but they can also be found in other environments. Obviously, we talked about intimate relationships,
Mhm.
but also for younger people, maybe at school, university,
Yeah, yeah,
within a
yeah.
share house situation, all sorts of environments.
Good, good. Thank you for that. See, at school, teenagers are very vulnerable as well. Not just teenagers, but any ages, anyways, depending
Mm.
on how confident you are as well, and it's all the mindset as well boils down to all of that. But let's talk about the teenagers right now, like the high school, like secondary. I know there are also kind of toxic relationships as classmates, or maybe between students and teachers, in general. What can you advise? What are your thoughts about this? Maybe I can start with you, Orit. What are your thoughts about this, like
Sure.
students in general?
Absolutely. I mean, when I think of teenagers, I think of, high school students and social media. It's very, very
Yes.
toxic with this social media in terms of the culture, especially where a lot of things can be anonymous. And some of these
Yeah.
toxic people love to say things that will bring other people down, and social media is the perfect platform for that. And that's where we need a lot of kind of education, psychoeducation around that,
Yeah.
and be able to really know
Cyberbullying.
what our teens are doing, so that they are not
Mm.
sort of we're not suffering in silence. Let them know that
Yeah.
it is toxic behavior, and you are never responsible for that. It is
Yeah.
always the toxic person, the narcissist. And I
Yeah.
think when the young people especially know that it's something that is just happening to so many people, they won't feel alone. So just know there's help out there. Definitely talk to a professional. Talk to your parents if they're not the toxic person. Talk to
I
your
hope they're not.
friends. Well, as Joe was saying, they're in our family. They could be our neighbour. They can be our
Sure.
friends, our work colleagues.
Oh,
Almost
we can't
everyone,
win.
if not everyone, will know someone. They may not be able to identify that they're narcissistic, but if they
Mhm.
really know the signs and the sort of symptoms that they're experiencing, they'll have that aha moment and go, aha, I wish I'd known that years ago. And that's when
True.
you finally know knowledge is powerful. When you finally know what you're dealing with, you're able to then be able to make some positive changes that will really impact your health and well-being.
That's true. Thank you for that, Orit. Thank you for that. And if you've missed those signs and symptoms, guys, and knowing what are the how you can identify a narcissist, you can replay this as well later on so that it can give you more, insights on how you'll be able to prepare yourself, working or in a relationship with this narcissist or toxic individual. Thanks, Orit. Joanna, do you want to add to that? About this, students in general, like especially
Mm.
the most vulnerable. That's what they said is more in the secondary because their emotions are established but not well established. They can easily be bullied, cyberbullying, as what Art just mentioned about social medias and everything. Is there anything that you want to add to that, addressing the parents or the students itself? Take it away.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and in my professional line of work, I don't work with teenagers so much. I tend to work more with adults. But I think for younger people within the school environment, one of the challenges they encounter is that when you're at school, that's really, it's like your whole world in a way. It's where you go Monday to Friday. You get thrown in with a bunch of people, and those are the people that you have to spend this large amount of time with.
Yeah.
And you don't really get a choice. I mean, nor do you get a choice really when you enter the workforce. But it's a big melting pot. And for students who feel that they are struggling with establishing their own identity, figuring out who they are and what they're all about, it's an incredibly stressful time. It's a time of enormous growth and change and learning who they are, but also how to be in the world, how to interact with other people and so on. So I think that there's risks involved in being in an environment where you feel trapped and you feel like there's no way out, and that's your whole world. So social media is kind of good and bad in that it provides this platform for cyberbullying, like Orit was saying. But on the other hand, for some young people, it also gives them a bit of a lifeline because it allows them an opportunity to meet people beyond the confines of their school, where they can meet people with similar interests, they can connect with others who are like-minded, and just get that sense that there is a bigger world out there, and that they're not limited to the attitudes and values of the people that they're at school with.
True. And thank you for that, Joanna. And just to say, with the younger generation as well, it's more on the social medias right now. And as you can see, it's all about the belongingness that they need as well. And with that, if in the interaction within the student, relationship, some of them, they choose whom are gonna be their friends, and they don't want to invite this and all that, and there's so much conflicts in at school, whether they're very young or even in the intermediate as well, not just secondary. In I think it caters any ages, but again, the mental health will and well-being for the teenagers are being more focused on at this time, because they have that emotions being established but not well established. So I think the schools right now, for the secondary schools, they should really focus more on like how they can support. I'm sure a lot of schools are doing that right now, but I cannot say for all schools, but I hope that in general, schools in different parts of the world should really focus into this, not just in academics, but the mental health and well-being of every student. Because when after they finish secondary and they go to university, if they haven't coped anything much during the younger years, how can they cope more when they go to uni? And there you are, guys, Joanna and Art, you've also came across students who are kind of vulnerable when it comes to emotions as well, because of the people around them, whether at home, at school, or at work. So they can't win, right? So you have that already experienced before, Joanna and Art. And I would like to ask you even further as well later on how we can deal with this kind of circumstance as well. And I would like to thank Eva saying great topic, well done, Lee. Thank you, very informative from both of you, Joanna and Arit. Yay, thank you so much for that, for the feedback. And since each one of you guys who are tuning in right now, thank you so much for staying with us. I'm sure you now understood what is a toxic individual, what are the signs and symptoms, where do we actually meet them, and what are how can we identify them? We have that already an idea, okay? Those golden nuggets that came from Joanne and Orit, whether at work, at school, or in a relationship. Now, having said that, Joanna and Orit, let's talk about how we can sort this out, okay? Joanna, do you want to start with how to deal with this toxic individual, toxic people, whether at work, school, or in a relationship? You can, if you want to divide it into different categories, school, work, and intimacy, up to you guys. The floor is yours. Shall we start with Joanna? Is that all right with you? All right. Yeah, Joanna
Sure.
first. Thank you.
So I think, first of all, let's say we're talking about an intimate relationship, being with a toxic partner, maybe a narcissist. What I would encourage someone to do is to educate themselves. You'd be surprised at how much is out there about toxic relationships, toxic partners, dealing with narcissists. There's books, there's great podcasts, there's websites, there's online communities, forums. And so you can start to learn about the patterns of behavior. You can start to learn some of the language that's associated with it. And you'd be surprised at what's out there. I would just encourage people, if they are going to do that, to make sure that if they are with an abusive partner, that if there's any danger of them seeing that you're accessing these resources, that may place you in further danger. So just be very mindful of that. So education is the key to empowerment, I think, as a good first step. And another good step is to keep a journal or a diary. Again, make sure you closely guard that so that someone isn't going to be able to see it. Because as part of the gaslighting process, quite often the toxic partner will make you doubt your own memories. They make you doubt your perception of reality, doubt things that have happened, and make you wonder if you're remembering them differently to how they happened. So keeping a secret log or a journal, and you can log the good things as well. You know, it's not to say you can only log the negative things in the relationship, but that can help you to feel more certain in your mind that, yes, these behaviors are happening. They're happening in a pattern. This is real. I'm not imagining it. And so to keep that and collect that evidence for yourself to help you feel more certain that this is a toxic relationship.
Yeah. And do something about it. Thank you for that.
I'll let Orit talk about what the next step might be.
Thank you, Joanna, for that.
Thanks, Lee and Joe. Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And I think also very, very important to protect your energy, protect yourself. So make sure that you set up the healthy boundaries. If you don't know how to do setting up the healthy boundaries, do go talk to a professional about that. And again, that can look different in sort of the workplace, personal relationships and so forth. When it comes to the school environment, there's always going to be a wellbeing team. So go and chat to somebody there. They can at least direct you somewhere. You can speak to the psychologist there or the wellbeing officer and to talk about what needs to be done, what can be done. When it comes to personal relationships, it's really important to identify what that behaviour is, and if you can discuss that with the toxic person, narcissist, if they're not going to hear you out, and you put in those boundaries and you give them the opportunity to ask them why they may have crossed the boundary, maybe once, maybe twice, but by the third time, if you know that they purposefully continue to gaslight you and cross those boundaries, then you know that you've got something to discuss with a professional. And you also know, as Joe said, to document that as evidence. Because what happens is if you start to stand up for yourself, the narcissist is used to using you as their sort of narcissistic supply. Once they feel that you're onto them, that you've identified that their behaviour is toxic, they will start to go into defensive mode and then sort of reel in the flying monkeys and start the almost like a smear campaign where they're going to try to make you look like the crazy one, the toxic one. So you've got to document these things, because if it does end up in court, and let me tell you it does and it can, you've got to make sure that you're well equipped. And I know we're sort of looking at what may happen in the future as a worst case scenario, but I think it's always important to be well prepared. So set up those boundaries. As I said, just document everything and then seek support. That support may be support from someone that you really trust, that's close to you, but even better, a professional where you know it's all confidential and you're going to get the right information. I think those are the sorts of things. I think at the end of the day, knowledge is powerful. And if you know where to go, know you're not alone and know you're not imagining these things. And it's actually never your fault. If you're there to make things work, it's got to be two-sided. But a partner that wants to make it work with you will listen and be grateful for that and want to support you and want to kind of, if they're always pointing out what you've done wrong and not taking any accountability, that in itself shows that it's a toxic relationship, because we all are accountable for something. We know we're not perfect, we all make mistakes, but someone who feels that they're always perfect and it's always put onto you, deflecting the blame onto you, that's already a red flag.
Yeah. Very well said, both of you. Oh my goodness. It looks like we can talk about this all day. I think 1 hour is not enough for us, and we should have another episode. This is our episode 2 because me and Art last time, we don't have much time. Thank God there's an episode 2, but that's good. Such a both of you have given us again diamond, not just golden but diamond nuggets today, and I'm sure little bits and pieces from the time that we've started a while ago, they've already got a lot of important things that they can do in order for them to surpass this maybe toxic relationship, whether at work, at school, or maybe at home as well. And as what you are been sharing a while ago, Joanne and Art, it seems like we've heard a lot of negative words today: the jealousy, the envy, the gaslighting. What else? No, I forgot the other words, but it seems like all these are drain. The word drain as well. Like all
Yeah.
of these are not so good to carry in our hearts, right? And it seems like these narcissist, toxic, capital Toxic, toxic people, it seems for me, whilst listening to you, um, they have maybe from the past, there are things that has not been accomplished from the very beginning. It's like Eric Erickson's developmental stage. I'm sure you are aware about this developmental stage. Perhaps they have lack of recognition when they're still young, perhaps because of that lack of recognition, as well as they grow older and becomes fixated, and they try to mirror that image to other people so that they feel good about themselves. So it's really more on the developmental stage. And for those parents who are looking after their children right now, it's very important, our role as well, how we actually assist our children in their developmental stage, learn to appreciate our children in many different ways so that one day when they grow older, they not become fixated as well, because it's a retaliation time to whoever they relate with in the future. And that's it, they try to drag other people's down because they need more self-confidence and more self-fulfillment because they don't have that before. And again, this is going to be it's like a domino, right? And at the same time, it goes from one generation to another. If you're not been brought up really well when it comes to the right developmental stage, then it reflects on you, and then that person becomes a parent and another children and parent and all that. So it just goes on and on and on, and we should start right now spreading that, I call it good vibes and love and positivity. Again, like for me, there should must be a good balance in bringing up our children. I'm not blaming parents at this time, okay? What I'm saying is, us parents, we become children too. So we pass on that genes to another, to our children. So we make sure we start it right. And Joanne and Artie has mentioned, like, if you feel that you are having those symptoms as a narcissist yourself, obviously they don't have self-reflection and self-evaluation, but maybe one day they can also find someone, a therapist that they could talk to about themselves, because it can be correct me if I'm wrong, it can still be fixed, right? As a narcissist, am I right, Joanne and Ari?
Lee, I love this question. The answer is a true narcissist cannot be helped, cannot be fixed.
Okay, good point.
They whether it's nature or nurture, they are insidious by nature. They don't take accountability. They don't think they have a problem. They actually do feel they're superior and all these things. It is a personality disorder, and unfortunately, you cannot fix them. So when it comes to counselling and
Sorry.
therapy, the only time I suppose a narcissist can go to therapy, and there are some that do, it's because they accept that they are, they acknowledge that they are,
So
and they
that's
do want to seek help. So you are correct in saying you can provide counselling, but they can't. They are always going to be a narcissist.
Yeah, it's in their
But
genes already.
it's in their genes, but they can actually learn about what is required. They can try to make the relationships work, because when there's a genuine desire, then there is a genuine desire to be able to help. And that's where with any therapy, if you can't sort of be successful if you're not willing to make it work. But for those who target the empathic people and they're not willing to kind of work with them, it's basically you must leave that relationship at the end of the day, because
Sure. It's not worth it.
it's not worth it. It's going to drag you down. You've got to build
Yeah.
your self-confidence, surround yourself with positive people, positive experiences. You've
Amen
got
to
one
that.
life to live, and you know, there's only so much empathy you can give someone, and
Sure.
if they continue to make excuses, it's just check out.
Yeah. It's sad to know that there's no way of fixing them, but at least maybe one day, as someone is saying here, what about joining a community of faith? It might help. You know, they
That
can
would be
only try.
great. If
We can only
absolutely,
try.
you can
They
only
might be
try.
able. They
There
might be
might be
able
hope.
to open up their
Yeah.
hearts and in their minds, and they have that self-reflection, self-evaluation. We'll see how it goes. Let me know, anonymous, if that works. At least we can share this to the world. Like, hey, you know, having a community of faith can also help. But maybe in time as well, realization, experience. You know, somebody saying here, how about she knows someone who had an accident and realized that, you know, all of these, because you know, when you're dying, you feel like, you know, you need to ask for forgiveness and everything. That could be.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing
Yeah.
that, anonymous. Ella, thanks so much for tuning in. And again, we can be hopeful, but we cannot expect so much from these narcissistic people. But what we can do is be vigilant to this, ladies and gentlemen. And again, as what Art is saying, surround yourself with good people. Thank you for that, Art. Joanna, anything to add before we wrap this up?
Two final thoughts. One is around not for the narcissists themselves, but if someone finds themselves in a toxic relationship, whether it is at work or within an intimate relationship, if they suspect that they are in a relationship with a narcissist, we talked about ways in which they can seek help, and they may consider going to see a counsellor, a coach, a therapist. I would encourage them to maybe do a bit of research and see if they can find someone who specialises in this field, because it is quite a specialised thing. And narcissists have their own tactics, their own language, their own insidious behaviours, and it's quite complex. It's quite a complex web. So going to see someone who has a bit of experience in this area would be a good thing. And like Orit was saying, for the person who finds themselves in that situation, you know, as she was saying, you only have one life to live. We've only got so many hours in a day, so much energy, so much fuel in the tank, and dealing with toxic people is exhausting. It's very consuming. It consumes your thoughts. It consumes your energy when you're constantly on edge, feeling anxious, dreading having to see them, worried about when the next explosion is going to be. So if you think about, you know, how different your life would look if you didn't have to expend so much mental energy and physical energy having to deal with that, it would give you more time and more energy to actually pursue the things that are meaningful to you and do the things that you love to do. So it's a, you know, you owe it to yourself to make the self-honouring choice to surround yourself with people who actually encourage you to grow and to thrive, and people who want you to be free.
True. Just like us, Joanna, Art, and myself. So we can be your friends, guys. So you'll have you know, a happy ending, thriving well, be successful. Why not? You know, we are you know, again, surround yourself with good, same mindset, and that's really true. Thank you for that, Joanna. Very well said, and Art. So before I wrap this up, anything to add, Art? Final message to everyone. If there's anything you want to add to that, are you happy with everything what you've said?
No, just I think Joe summed it up beautifully. Just
Beautiful.
everyone, just self-care number one. Think of
That's right.
one thing a day that you can do for yourself. You deserve it. You've earned it. And thank you all for listening.
That's true. So thank you. And for during mental health crisis, guys, just in front of your screen right now, please contact Lifeline Crisis Support on 131-114 and also Beyond Blue on 1300-224-636, and that's Australia-wide. So do not forget that. Now, I would like to thank you, Joanna and Orit. It's my pleasure, privilege, and an honor for me to have you here today. And I hope this is just the beginning. We can have more episodes about this. It's just a very important topic, you know, in whatever age you are in right now. This is really very relevant to each one of us. Yeah. Whether you are in different parts of the world, you can really relate to this. So I would like to thank both of you, Joanne and Art, for this precious time. And please sit back and relax. I just want to wrap this up, okay? And I'll make sure, guys, for those who are still tuning in, thank you so much. again for keeping us company since we've started, talking about dealing with toxic people. And I just want to remind you guys, for those who have not yet subscribed to my channel, Motivationally, please click that like button. Please share any of my YouTube videos, and of course, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to click that notification button so that every time I have a podcast or any videos I actually upload in the future, you'll be notified as well. And this channel is intended to create an impact, to inspire you and to motivate you, to keep you thriving as well, no matter what, in whatever circumstances you are in at the moment. And just to let you know as well, and of course, Joanna and Art here, I've got a website, which is www.motivationally.com. And so check out, guys, all my services that is available for you, not just direction coach. I'm doing in direction coach. I do boosting income, and also career coaching and relationship coaching. Just that's why we've got this as well. And of course, faith coaching as well. And in my wellness, I do as well coach for self-doubt, self-confidence, performance outcome, stress, and burnout. So not just my coaching, I also do hosting, team building, professional development, personal development, jack of all trades at this time. So thank God for this talent. And so please don't forget to browse www.motivationally.com and browse all my services available for you. I would love to work with you in the future. And also, you can reach out to me or follow me, and message me as well on Instagram, Twitter, and in LinkedIn and FB page as Motivationalee. So I hope you can connect with me one day so that we can be friends as well, and I'll be able to assist you in whatever things that you want me to assist you in the future. Always remember, guys, just a friendly reminder, as what Orit and Joanna is mentioning a while ago, this can drain you. People are toxic or narcissists can drain you. So you've got two things to choose, whether people who can drain you or inspire you. Okay. What is the most important thing right now? Because toxic people create chaos. They point their fingers. When they point their finger, don't you worry. They point one to you, one finger, but they're pointing more to themselves. So do not be afraid of dealing with these people. They try to shift as they create chaos, point fingers on you. They shift the blame and avoid taking responsibility. So there's no point of allowing them to stay in our hearts. Ditch them as much as possible. Be smart enough, because you know what? You are capable. You're capable of thriving. You're capable of being successful. And the moment that you start thinking and to wonder if you deserve better, of course you do. So start acting now, be smart enough, and make sure you reach out to some people that you know, and even professional people, so that you can get out of this relationship, whether it's intimate relationship, whether at school or at work. You deserve better than this. You deserve better than what you have right now, because you are capable. So have a beautiful afternoon, evening, or morning, everyone, wherever you are. Thank you so much again for tuning in. This is Lee. Thank you, Juan and Aret. See you again next time, guys, only here on Motivationally. Have a good afternoon. Thank you. See you, Aret, Joanna. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.